Hey guys, back working on our speaker panel today. In the last clips you seen I had the speakers mounted to the panel there. We had drilled out the holes with a hole saw and pre-drilled some holes for the screws to mount the speakers, and we went ahead and mounted them in the panel. Well, right now we want to get these speakers loose temporarily and get us a piece of black laminate on here. This is a piece of scrap black laminate that came from when we done the sides of the cabinet. And you can see there's kind of some old dried contact cement on there already. Shouldn't hurt anything really, it's just a thin coating. I covered the whole surface of the sheet that I had when I was doing the sides just to make sure that, you know, I didn't miss any spots, and I knew I was going to have some left over. Well, I don't believe it hurts anything at all. It's not like a big lumpy mess or anything. It's just got kind of a sheen on it, kind of like a varnish. And this is big enough to cover the whole speaker panel and have a little bit left over, which there's probably not going to be much usable out of this, but I'm glad I can use that to do the speaker panel. And there's actually another piece back behind some of that plywood there by the MK2 cabinet, and it's slightly larger than this, just a little bit, and it's actually enough that could probably cover the entire size of the control panel box. And I've been contemplating doing that, just to cover like each of these ends of the box and then down the length of the box here. So I've got one piece that can probably do all three of those pieces if I don't put any artwork on it. So I may do that black just to match the cabinet. I do know that the kick plate in the front of the cabinet, I would probably like to do some artwork, and something on each side, maybe something rather small, and on the piece right there, which is going to be the top that has the joysticks and buttons and trackball and everything on it. That'll probably have artwork on it, maybe plexi over it, and also, you know, of course, marquee and everything. But right now we just want to do this speaker panel and get it covered with a piece of this black laminate. So have our DAP weldwood contact cement here. That's what we used on the sides. We don't have a whole lot left, but it's plenty to do this small panel, and it'll probably have enough left to do the control panel box sides if we need to. But we got to get us a stirring stick and get this stirred up a little bit, get us a paintbrush, and I am doing this inside since it's just a small piece. I'm going to put me down some newspaper, and it's just really late at night. It's almost about midnight actually, and I've got work tomorrow, but I just wanted to get one extra thing done here. The speaker panel, I had actually done this yesterday, and I didn't get to the laminate, and I just want to get something done today. I want to try to do at least something, even if it's small, each day. So I'm going to get this done and glued up. Most likely I will not get it trimmed with the trim router since it's so late. I can come back after this cures up tomorrow and finish that, but we do want to get this applied and flip it over and put some pressure on it and everything, and leave it setting up for tomorrow so I can come back with the trim router and clean it up. If you remember right, there is a 45-degree bevel to the front of this, and you know, the opposite side is what we're going to put the black laminate on. So we can't leave this side where the bevel is hanging over, because our trim router is not going to be able to ride on a 90-degree edge. It has a bearing on there that needs to ride on a 90-degree edge and clean up that side. So what we're going to have to do is, when we position this, after we have contact cement on the wooden panel and contact cement on this piece of laminate here on the back side of it, the other side has the nice shiny black on it. When we go to assemble it, this edge right here that you see, it's a nice clean edge, and it's a factory edge that came, you know, already cut. That's what we cut away from, you know, some of the angles of the cabinet. You can see the angle of the cabinet there. This is a nice straight edge, and we want to line it up perfectly with the edge where the bevel is, so that when we push it down, this one side will not require any routing at all. It'll be almost perfect, and it'll be okay if it hangs over just a hair, or if it's back just a hair, because there's going to be a bracket there that holds the marquee in place. Probably the best thing would be if it's back just a hair. Don't really want it to hang over much, but we'll find a way to get that lined up. And we're going to get this right now painted up with a paintbrush with some of the adhesive on it, the contact cement, And the same thing with the opposite side of this wooden panel. After we take the speakers out, and we're going to let it dry just a little bit. It's got to dry for 15 to 20 minutes until it's not wet anymore, till it's tacky. And then you can assemble the pieces together, and we'll have to use something to put some pressure on there, either a block of wood or I still don't have a J roller, which is the proper thing to use for this. I do have a rolling pin, which you see me use on the cabinet some. But you can, last resort, you can actually just use your hands. You might want to get something kind of soft, either a towel or something to use to put pressure on there, but even just your hands, this laminate is very strong. You can probably just rub it down and put a decent amount of pressure on it, and just make sure you rub over the entire surface very hard. They even say on the can you can use a rubber mallet as a last resort, but I don't think that's necessary, a rubber mallet. That, if anything, that could make very small impressions in the laminate. It's pretty strong. It probably wouldn't, but I don't want to take any chances of cracking it or anything, so I'm just probably going to use my hands or rolling pin or something like that. So I'm going to get started on that now. Okay guys, we got our adhesive mixed up here, and this stuff is really strong. It's got a strong scent to it, so if you use this in the house, don't stay exposed to it for too long. We've got it all mixed, and we're going to start putting it on our laminate on the back side. And I've got a little mark on my cardboard here, so I know not to put too much. We just want to put enough to cover where we're going to be adhering this to our speaker panel. Try not to be too messy with it, but stuff can get a little messy. Really best to do this outside, it really is. But got to do what you got to do. And I've got the heat going in here, so this stuff's going to dry pretty quick. Well, make sure you get your sides really good. And don't get your carpet if you're doing it on carpet like I am, or you'll feel like kicking yourself later. I'm going to make sure to get this flat edge up here really good, because that's got to be lined up with the side of the panel. I want it to adhere really good. And this is some extremely strong stuff. Not just the scent, but I mean the bond. Once you stick it to the other piece where it's got some on it, it's an instantaneous bond. It's going to be really hard to tear it apart. You might be able to pull it apart really quick, but you're not going to have much of a chance of it. And I was going to mark where my speaker holes are going to be, but once this dries, I can still drill through it to make my little perforated holes I wanted to make, so it's not going to be any problem. I think that's good enough for that piece. And now I have to do the wooden panel over on the other end. So I want to do that off camera, and we'll come back when I'm putting this together and I'll show you what goes on there. Okay guys, we got our pieces drying up now. Right there you can tell where it gets wet. I just did enough of it so it could cover where the speaker panel is going to be, because that part right there and this lower part here is going to be cut away. That's just some excess. But I just put a couple of marks there on my cardboard. This is just an old box, just so I know about how far I needed. Well, you can't see that one. I've kind of pushed that around and covered it, but so I know how much of that I needed to cover so I didn't waste too much adhesive. And did the speaker panel all the way across there, and I got it all the way up to the holes real good. I didn't let it run down in the holes or over the edges, but we wanted to get that beveled edge on the far side there, so we got that really good. And the tricky part is just going to be here in about another 10 minutes or so when this all dries, sticking it together, because I've really got to get that that good straight edge right here. I've got to get that lined up perfectly with that beveled edge up there on the speaker panel. And I got a couple ideas of how to do it, but I just want to get that just about perfect. If anything, I want it to be you know, just a hair back, you know, a 1/16 of an inch back from the edge, because if it's hanging over the edge it might cause a problem with the marquee bracket. I doubt it would be too bad, and I could always come back with a utility knife or some type of Dremel attachment or bit and just kind of cut away any excess there, but I think I ought to be able to get it close enough that it won't interfere with the bracket for the marquee any. So we're just going to let this dry up a few more minutes, and then we're going to stick it together and put some pressure on it. Okay guys, I want to try to see if I can get these pieces together. They've been setting up for 20 minutes for the wooden panel, and probably close to 30 minutes for the piece of laminate, so that should be plenty of time for them to be tacky. And if you touch it, yeah, you can tell it's just a little tacky, so it's ready to make a permanent bond. Still in my wife's rolling pin here. Haha, hope she doesn't find out. If she does, she'll beat me. But had my friend's wife's rolling pin last time. I didn't know my own wife had a rolling pin tucked away somewhere, but this is a pretty heavy one here, so I'm not going to put too much pressure on it. I think this is an older one she's had from somebody in her family gave to her, but we're not going to get it dirty or anything. It's just going to be on the clean side of the laminate. There we go, that's pretty good. So we have a piece of plywood against the framing square, and the framing square is against the angled edge, the beveled edge, and that's going to hold it. We really need something over here to keep this side from moving, but it's going to hang over a little bit, so I don't know if that's going to work. I think we might ought to just go ahead and just see if we can put it down there and get it to go in place. Let me take this piece of plywood, put it on the back side. Maybe that'll keep our wood from sliding about. So everything's in position. So what this will do is when we slide that in place, we're going to lean it in on this edge and lay it down. When we lean it in and lay it down, it's probably going to leave about a 30/2 of an inch gap right before the beveled edge, and that's fine because we're going to have that bracket that goes across there. We just want it to be pretty straight, and we don't really want it to hang over. Okay. Now we're going to take our piece of laminate, if I can get my hands on it without touching the adhesive. And I want to get it kind of close. I'm just measuring up. I want to get it kind of close to the edge, but I did go over just a little bit. And this is critical right here. There's no going back now. Okay. And most of the time when you work with a larger piece, you want to kind of lay a little bit down at a time, mash down, and keep going as you go. But this is such a small piece, I wasn't that worried about too much air getting under there. But we're putting a little weight into it on the rolling pin. Want to be a little bit careful, not come across the edge too hard, because you can crack this laminate. The rolling pin, kind of like a J-roller, will kind of give you even pressure as you're going across there. I'm seeing I didn't hang it off the edge as much as I thought, but it's enough that I can come back and use the trim router and it'll work. But I'm going to cut right here. I'm going to put a little more pressure on it. We've been filming probably for about 8 or 9 minutes now, so. Okay guys, we just kind of burnished this down a little bit more. Got all that like an extra foot and a half of excess hanging off the top there and side here. We're going to come back and trim that off with the trim router, but we're not going to do it tonight. I'll come back from work and do it tomorrow. Got to give this stuff some time to really cure up good. And I mean, it's stuck on there, it's not coming off, but it's hanging over on every edge that I wanted to trim, except for this. This is the beveled edge here, and if you can see, might be kind of hard to tell, but there is, like I said, maybe about a 32nd of an inch or so down through there where it didn't meet dead at the edge. But that's fine. That's kind of exactly what I wanted, to be honest. That way, I mean, well, at least, I mean, if it would have met perfectly, that would have been fine, but I just didn't want it to hang over, and I didn't want it to be back so far that the bracket that holds the marquee won't be able to hide any imperfection there. But it's pretty uniform all the way down through there. It's about a 32nd of an inch from the edge. It's kind of hard to tell in the vid, I guess, but I don't think that wood's completely true where that's cut. I don't think it's a completely straight edge there, but looks pretty good. And once we cut these other edges out with the router, they will look perfect, and when it goes in the cab, it's going to look nice. And we'll come back after we do that with the trim router tomorrow, and we'll flip this piece over, and where the holes are for our little speakers, we'll make some small holes with some very small drill bits, and make maybe 8 to 10 holes or so in there for the sound to come through. And if that doesn't work out for some reason, if it doesn't look right, or I mess up with my holes that I'm drilling or something like that, maybe my bits don't make good clean holes, then I can still always come out and actually punch those holes all the way through with a hole saw or something, and I can install some type of grill or something over that. But hopefully it'll work out like I'm planning, and it'll have a nice clean look, and it'll just look a nice clean panel, and it'll just have the holes where the speakers are behind there. But anyway, we're going to leave this overnight, and I'm going to get some sleep because it's about 1:15 in the morning. I got to get up around 6, get ready for work, and go in. Talk to you guys later. Alright guys, we're back today. It's the following day. I've come back from work, and we're around 6 p.m. in the evening on Tuesday, which doesn't make any sense if you're just watching this video, and it's taken me a month to process it. But anyways, it's the following day, and we're going to take this outside and use my rigid trim router there with the laminate trimming bit, and we're going to run around the edge and trim this up the best we can, and see what the results look like. So I might show you a clip or two of me outside doing that. Okay guys, a little windy, a little bit cool outside here. It's about 50, but feels cooler than that actually. But the wind's blowing pretty good out here, and we've got our trim bit set up on here with the bearing on the end of it to follow along our material. And let me just check the depth of that real quick. Set it down. You can see right there, if I go all the way against the material, the bearing's going to be running against the plywood, so you don't want it too low to go below the plywood, and if you get it too high, it won't cut your laminate. So we've got it down low enough to where it'll cut the laminate, and the bearing will ride on the plywood. And we clamped this piece down with 2 clamps right here onto one of the cleats that's on the speaker panel against the bottom edge of the table saw, and have another clamp over there, and all this is away from the working edge where we're going to be going around. This is down low enough and back far enough that the bit is never going to come in contact with any of that. It's going to be riding right here, and this is back about 1/2 inch clamped in. Nothing will touch because it won't even go over the edge of the plywood. And we're going to be moving counterclockwise. We're going that way, which is kind of against the natural rotation of the bit. The bit is going to be turning like that, so it's going to want to run and go this way, you know, but we're going to be going that way, and it's forcing it to cut into the material. It helps you keep control. If you tried to go this way, it may possibly cut, but it's going to be trying to take off on you, and you probably won't get a very good cut. So we're going to go counterclockwise. Okay guys, we're ready to go, so we're going to start right here, if you can see, yeah. And we're going to work our way around, and we'll stop when we get to this point right here. Got safety goggles on. Want to protect your eyes. But makes a big mess. As you can see, that's what's left whenever it cuts through that stuff. And you get kind of a melting smell where it's cutting through the actual laminate, the hard, tough surface on it. So let me get my air hose and blow this off a little bit. I'll come back and show you what the results look like. Well guys, as you can see, here's our piece. Turned out really well. I'll stand up here and kind of hold it up for you. Had a real good edge come out all around. Nice sharp edge. I'm really a fan of laminate. Once you get used to working it and using the trim router on it, it really comes out nice. So we've got everything ready. We want to come back and drill some small holes in here, some perforations, so that we can mount our speakers back and get the sound to go through there. So I'm still contemplating exactly how I want to do that, the size of bit and everything. And if it doesn't work out, I can come back and put grills on the other side. It's always an option. We would just have to put the hole saw in here and punch on through, and then come back and put a grill on the other side. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I want to go with the clean look. If you could just imagine a few perforated holes in a circular pattern here and here, and that would let the sound come through. I think that would look pretty neat. But I'm going to get on inside, getting a little chilly out here, and need to wipe this down. I got fingerprints all over it, but it turned out excellent. No problems. Hey guys, back in the house. Just got our speaker panel all cleaned up here, and cleaned up my mess outside. And it really turned out great. I always stand in amazement how those little bits can turn these corners like they do. Well, that's not a corner. Actually, I started out flat on right here on this edge. I started out flat and went this way, and then here's the first corner we hit. But take a look at how sharp those corners are with that laminate when it cuts it. I mean, it's just amazing how sharp that bit can cut a corner. And I didn't even go over it a second time. This is all one single cut, and I mean, it just looks brilliant. I mean, even that corner. Take a look at that corner. Look at the sharp edge on that. See if I can get it against the wood there where you can kind of see. It's just such a sharp corner. The edges look really great. Got, I don't know if you can see it in the video the way the light hits it. There's a little tiny scuff right there, but that was on there before we even installed this. That was from when I cut the laminate the first time. And when we stuck this on there last night, I had to line it up as close as I could to this beveled edge. That little place already had a scuff, but like I say, there's going to be a little bracket that covers up, I'd say a 1/4 inch or maybe a little more of this, I don't know. And it'll get screwed into here and it'll come up over the lip so it can hold the bottom of the marquee. So this edge was already on there. These corners just turned out great. I really like that trim bit, and I love that router. Lots of other things I can do with that in the future. I just need to get some more bits, and I'll got a couple of decorative bits, and I haven't tried to really use them with that router, but I'm sure it'll do great. I think what I need to start doing is maybe slowing the speed down on it a little bit. I went with a speed of about 4 to 4.5. I can't remember how high it goes, like 8 or something. And I think the last time I used it, I used a 3, and I think it worked. Yeah, I mean, you know, it works great either way. It's just, I think what it does is if you turn it up a little too high, it's actually trying to just burn through this stuff really quick instead of cut. So I think you need to like tone the speed down a little bit for this, because it's not very hard for it to cut through this stuff. It's very thin. But I was getting a little bit of a smell there, and it wasn't just the smell of the laminate being trimmed. I think it was actually going so fast that it was actually trying to burn it slightly, but it didn't hurt it at all. I just noticed that smell, and I'm like, yeah, I'll back off the speed next time. I don't think I need to go any higher than about 3 on this stuff. Could probably even go down to 2.5. But like I say, we're going to flip this over, and in here we're going to drill some holes. This has got a little tackiness to it, not much. That's where we put the adhesive on there, the laminate contact cement. That's what I'm trying to think of. The contact cement, because I just went ahead and covered the whole piece. I just wanted to make sure that it sealed up there good. And, you know, I didn't want to sit there and measure out and try to figure out where not to put it. So this stuff dries really good after a little while. I mean, it's got just a very slight tackiness to it, just a little bit, but doesn't hurt a thing. You'll never see this from the other side. Speakers are going to cover this. We're just going to drill some holes all around in here and try to make it uniform, you know. And on the other side, it'll just look like I said, like a salt shaker or a pepper shaker deal on each side where the speakers are, and it'll let the sound come out. And as long as that works out okay, we won't have to worry with any grills or anything, but we'll take it one step at a time. So let me find a bit to try that with, and I'll try it on some scrap laminate just to see how it does, because I don't want a bit that's going to leave a really rough cut. I want it to leave a really smooth cut. If we have to, we can use some very small spade bits. I think I have some small ones, but I'm not sure if it's small enough. It might be a little too big for this. But we'll try some experiments on a scrap piece of laminate.